And that's a pre-show here for Monday on the Rants of Izzo here on Spreely Media. Spreely.com. All things speak freely. Good afternoon, kids. This is the Rants of Izzo show here on Spreely Media. Not only is today's show brought to you by Spreely.com, don't forget, we've also supporting some awesome businesses we want you to take a look at. That's the point of this pre-show. Like, why are you doing a pre-show? So we don't have to interrupt the rest of the show. Pretty much. We get shit out of the way. It's called housekeeping. All right. So this is First Class Sinners. You can check them out on Instagram. They are motorcycle apparel. I can't wait for my stuff to come in because I'm going to be riding next year because it's less than 60 degrees out here in Chicago and I don't ride when it's like that because it's cold as hell. Their website, firstclasssinners.com. The best collection for America's birthday. Look at this. First Class Sinners, where riding in style meets making a difference. Look, the bottom line is you have to 100% support your American small businesses. Also, if you're looking to get out of whatever job you're doing, if you're looking to franchise for the most part, or if you've ever wanted to own a gym, don't do it. Well, you can learn the experience the hard way like I did. I owned a 1,700 square foot gym. No, 2,400 square foot gym for 3 years. It was a big pain in the ass. But buying a franchise, a lot better. So if you want to get a franchise gym, go ahead and check out Forze, Forze, gym.com/franchise. Man, turnkey, dude. Turnkey. Just do it. I think we might be having technical difficulties, but I'll plug it here too. Today is also brought to you by Agard Watches, EGARD watches.com. AgardWatches.com is also an excellent, proud sponsor of today's show. And let's have a damn show here.
Prepare yourself.
The opinions of the host and guests on the show are exclusively just that, opinions. That means that they shouldn't be the cause of your state of being offended. Why does everybody get so butthurt?
Okay, let's go. Ready, go!
Sit down, shut up, and pay attention. This is the Rants of Izzo Show with your hosts, Dominic Izzo, from porn to politics. We touch every third rail we can find. You might want to put your headphones on so your mom can't hear this. It's been called the most entertaining 60 minutes on the internet, and it starts now. Let's do this.
All right, welcome back for a Monday edition of the Rants of Izzo show here on Spreely.com. All things speak freely. If you ever wanted to support the concept of free speech, you can do so by going to Spreely.com. If you're watching us on your TV, hey, are you like, how the hell do I do that? Download the Spreely TV for your app or stay connected to us on your smartphone with Freedom Hub, all one word, Freedom Hub at your Apple store or whatever you Android peasants use, even though I hear Android's kind of better than the iPhone. All right, it is Monday. Ilana's co-piling with me today, and we're going to have a good, serious conversation. How you doing, buddy? You good? Now I can't hear you. I could hear you before, but now I can't hear you. No, yeah, it's down at the bottom. There's technical difficulties. This is why you're not. See, if you were home in Florida, you'd be fine.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Now we
I'm
can.
very frustrated.
Yeah, now we
can't?
can. Yeah, no, we can. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. I'm not touching anything then. I'm going to leave.
Don't you dare touch a damn thing. It is Monday, so before we get in a conversation, we have to play our favorite guess the shooting numbers in Chicago for the weekend. So every Monday, regardless of who my guest is, they're responsible for getting a little bit cultural and discussing the city of Chicago shooting numbers. So today, you guys could play at home as well, too. Over in the Rants of Izzo show chat, we have Beverly Banks, Kate Mediwick, Morgan. Morgan's in the chat. Kelly, Sarah. Hi, Sarah. How are you? Good to see you. There you go. You guys could play at home as well, too. All right, so we're in the first 14 days so half the month is of October here in the city of Chicago. Elon, can you tell me how many people do you think were shot over the weekend from Friday until late last night, early this morning? How many people do you think were shot?
16.
It would almost be double. It's 36 is the correct answer if you're playing at home. 36. Now, out of those people, one guy was shot 5 times, took an Uber to the hospital, may have been shot during a botched robbery of an off-duty officer. How many people do you think were killed over the weekend?
30. Well, I mean, I would think 8.
Close. 5. It was not bad. 5 for that number. So now here's the real numbers. We have only had 14 days this month. 14 days so far. So today's really not a day. So in 13 days, how many people do you think have been killed in the first 13 days in Chicago?
13.
Very close. Very close. That's 20. 20 have been killed. Now here's the real question. How many people do you think have been shot in the first 13 days of October in the city of Chicago?
135.
Close. 121. 121. So you're getting better with these numbers, which is utterly fucking disgusting when you think about it, that people normalize the shooting in Chicago. All right, let's get into it. You and I, we are friends. We've always had great discussions on things. We started with martial arts, and then when I actually come on the show, my God, I didn't know that you actually have a ton of knowledge in a lot of other areas. Over the last several weeks, for people who've been listening to the show, you were the first person I had on October of last year when it came down to what I saw as this massive Jewish hate. Jew hate was crazy online, and I didn't like the way that things were presented. So I asked you to come on. We did a great podcast. You explained a lot of things. Over the last several weeks specifically, I've been looking into some stuff, and I'm going, wait a second. Was history not taught correctly? Are there some lies going on and whatnot? Are we being misled on stuff? And I've made some statements that you just don't like, and that's fine. I want to hear what you have to say about it. I want to start with. I want to cover. I had commented on Hitler's speech the other day, where I had heard it, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is nuts." And then I commented on the Jewish religion being satanic based on pride. There's a lot that you want to discuss, and I cut you off in a thread the other day on a DM, and I'm like, no, you got to save this for the show. You know, I want everybody to hear. If you're going to educate me on things, I want everybody else to hear it. I want to start with an overall blanket of what you've been watching, what you don't like, and then I'll go into specific questions about, like, all right, where am I wrong on whatnot? So what you started DMing me the other day. You don't like what I'm saying. Let's talk about it. Have at it.
Well, it has nothing to do with not liking or not liking. I'm not here to educate you. I'm actually quite pro freedom of speech. So, you said, I feel like I'm being attacked for asking questions. I think, number one, it's healthy to be attacked for certain things. In terms of, you shouldn't be attacked legally. Freedom of speech protects you from the government stepping in and arresting you. But there is consequence for speech. I don't think anyone's ever debated this. In fact, the right usually are the first to jump in and say this. Like, you say something that people don't like, people are going to respond to you. So I find that people, when they start getting into Holocaust denial, start going down this road of, well, look, now I'm being censored. People are attacking me. No, they're not. They're just telling you that they think you're a douchebag for doing it. On the premise, if we were to accept, right, that the Holocaust is real, the most well-documented event in human history, if we were to accept this, and you were the son or grandson of someone whose family was killed in the Holocaust, it is not such a crazy premise to believe that people denying it would be offensive. Can you at least not agree to that?
I can. My first question is, where did I deny, or where did I give any information out that said I don't believe the Holocaust is real?
You have people consistently on your show who say the Holocaust is not real. Matty Wack and his partner.
No, and I appreciate that, but this is about me, though, so I want to stick with me.
No, I understand. And in your comment sections, if you look, yeah, you do little indications, or at least heavily imply, when people brought up Auschwitz. I don't know if you wrote, oh, well, they had pools, or you said they didn't have locks on the doors.
Yeah, that was just bringing up things. So we'll take this bit by bit. So I've never said I don't believe the Holocaust didn't exist. I've never said that. So my first thing is, when information comes forward, and there's a video I saw a while ago, and I've got it, where there was a person who was in the camp who said there was entertainment like movie theaters, pianos, and pools. Now, my first question for when it comes down to the camp's purposes, what was the purpose of concentration camps?
Well, first of all, okay, so number one, jumping into like the specifics of the Holocaust, we can do that. I'll just answer your question quickly. Pools, right? Actually, if you just go to Auschwitz, this is the problem. All of this is very easily answerable. If you go to Auschwitz or if you watch the Nuremberg trials, again, it's the most well-documented event in human history. They had water reservoirs. They used them as water reservoirs. The Red Cross was coming to investigate genocide. This is known. The Germans admitted this post-Holocaust. It's in documents with them testifying to this. And they said, okay, well, we're going to use it as a pool to hide the fact that we're committing genocide. They converted it to a pool. Guards were using it too as pools. If you're going to hide genocide, you're obviously going to put things in place to hide genocide. The problem is if we start jumping into every single specific, which you can do this on your own. And I won't have an answer, by the way, to every single specific question that you uncovered in every propaganda film. The easiest way to uncover the truth, because I asked you, did you see the Nuremberg trials? Have you investigated the Nuremberg trials? You go, no, I don't actually, have a dog in this fight. And I'm like, well, did you watch movies like Shoah? Did you watch all these documentations? Do you know that Germans themselves, the highest ranking Germans, testified to this? They said we were just following orders. They didn't even deny the Holocaust. Germany itself does not deny the Holocaust. So, I mean, at some point, we can debate the nitty itty gritty things that I might not have an answer to. I guarantee you I can find you an answer. In fact, I'll say this, you motivated me. You motivated me to make a documentary and just interview every Holocaust denier, get every single thing on paper. I know you don't like censorship. I'm getting every single question ever that people have about the Holocaust denial. And I'm going to make a documentary answering every single one.
And I could see
end the debate. You know what I mean?
No, I could see points. Number one, I'll go back to. I didn't deny the Holocaust, but I can also see things like prisons have exercise yards, basketball courts, movie nights, and whatnot. So I understand that if there's a pool or if there's a movie theater or piano in a Holocaust concentration camp, that's not too far of a stretch for me, considering the fact that prisons have them, right? And we're punishing people who have broken laws that have to serve time in our state prisons. My one question when I started to think about all this is, what was the purpose of concentration camps? What were they for?
Inevitably, you can argue they started off as labor camps. Inevitably, they became a pathway to the final solution, which was the genocide of the Jews.
Okay. So I did listen to Hitler's speech the other day, and I listened to it twice, and I was kind of blown away that when he started to bring up issues, what it sounded like, and then I started watching a documentary that somebody sent, some 6-hour documentary on Rumble, where
Europa, the Last Battle, that 2017.
No, I don't know, one of the two. But they broke down the Hitler's past, right? How he was raised, his service in World War I, his rise to power. And if I just limit it all to that and I remove the Jews from any content whatsoever, to me, it sounded like, and what it led up to a speech 9 months or whatnot before World War II, it sounded like Hitler was extremely proud of his country. He was a nationalist, 100% proud. They said when he was in the military, he was unbelievably efficient, recipient of awards and medals. Very, very, very. He's the guy that's going around that's motivating everybody else to put their all into the effort. Very, very seems like very pro nation. When I listened to that speech, and I wanted to make sure I had it right, it seemed there was an entity. So it's Jews, but we're going to remove them for a second. That was being forced upon them. He was criticizing. Let me get there. He was criticizing other nations that were claiming you have to take this group of people, and he went along the lines of saying, these other nations have one resident per square kilometer. They won't take these people. We have 130 per square kilometer. They want us to take these people. They were saying that these other nations were saying we won't take them unless they have certain amounts of dollar amount, but they want us to take them. At the end of his speech, I did hear a man who was frustrated post-World War I of his nation that went to shit, that he helped rebuild, and I'll get to how he helped rebuild because it was very telling. And all of a sudden, it's being threatened. The very same thing that tons of conservatives, including myself, are saying now. I'm very much, I've said publicly, fuck every single illegal criminal migrant in America right now. Deport them all. That's me being an America first, American nationalist.
Okay, but again, if we started genociding the migrants, that would not be a great thing.
And I'm leading up to.
But can I? Okay, you spoke for a long time. Here's the deal. Number one, Jews were not foreign to Germany. They fought in World War I. Jews were incredibly patriotic in Germany. The very argument, by the way, that Jews could manufacture, by your own statement, manufacture the Holocaust, but did not have enough money to go to other countries because they didn't have a large enough dollar amount, is completely contradictory. They're mutually exclusive. All these conspiracies, Jews were controlling the world, but they couldn't stop Hitler. Jews control the world, but they're the number one group of hate crimes. Jews want to spread communism, but they suffer tremendously under Stalin. Are there some Jews that want to spread communism? Sure. Are there some Christians that want to spread communism? Sure. I don't think anyone argues that Hitler was an incredibly charismatic individual. That's how he
huge
lobbied the entire country to kill more than 6 million people. There's a million gypsies. They're relevant too. He had a eugenics program for people who were disabled. And again, none of it's denied by Germany itself. None of it's denied by the people who carried out the acts. There's hundreds of hours of footage. There are literally, I don't know how many are alive anymore, but there were countless victims of this who all had to be in secret conspiratorial agreement of how they were going to present these stories, despite the internet not existing at that time and them never having met. It's just such an absurd claim. It's fine to question it, but if you're going to question it, then at least be genuine about your questioning and say, you know what? I took the time to go research the Nuremberg trials. I took the time to go watch films like Shoah. I took the time to actually see the testimonies of Germans. Never mind the victims. They're all liars. Can't trust the Jews, right? So they're all liars. Let's jump to all that, do all that, then watch your propaganda film, 2017 Europa, The Last Battle, and go, okay, well, now I'm going to make a decision based on this singular film, which is a 12-hour documentary, and the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of footage that are taken directly from what Germans themselves filmed, by the way, from themselves filmed that you have not taken the time to see, and then form an opinion. So I think, like, my question when I see people do this is, number one, you don't see people running around questioning slavery. You just don't see it. It's not like a trend. It only seems the Holocaust is the thing worth questioning. And so I don't know. I always wonder what people's intention, why this becomes a fixation for people. All of a sudden, Jews are the religion of Satan. It's like there's a pathway here very clearly if we're being genuine. And that's, I just want people to be genuine when they do these things.
Well, I am genuine because I'm in the process of doing it. So I'm not going to wait until I've done 3 years worth of research and come back. I'm going to be doing it in the process. A couple of different things about slavery. Yeah, if you bring up, well, how about the black slave owners who are in America? You get unbelievably chastised. And what if you talk about
that's totally different. You're not denying slavery I'm talking about why is no one denying slavery?
Again, I have not denied the Holocaust. I haven't denied the Holocaust at all. So I'm questioning the lies that I was fed growing up as a kid. When you come down to it, every time you talk about how the blacks sold themselves into slavery, you can't talk about that. Or how about all these people who are so pro climate change, but if they're pro climate change and they want to switch from fossil fuels, they have to admit they're pro slavery. Because the people
Tom, you're not answering my question.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there because I'm still trying to establish a base here. You're looking at people who are in slavery to mine those lithium batteries they need. When it comes down to Hitler, and my argument was specifically this man was presented as a monster and a demon, and then you start listening to what he's saying. I hear him as a nationalist who's proud of his country, and he's got a group of people he just doesn't want in there. So my first question is, I wanted to know what the labor camps were, because if you have a group of people who are in your country, I want these people deported from mine. So my two questions are, number one,
you're again starting on a premise that Jews were foreign. That's the very nature of the problem.
I didn't say they were foreign. I said there's a people he does not want in there. I don't know how they got there. I know that.
Why? They're German citizens. Why?
Again,
no, but here's the premise. You can't say I don't know how they got there. I don't know why they're there. They're Jews. So by nature of them being Jewish, you are acknowledging that Hitler considered them foreign and didn't want them there, even though they were German citizens who fought in World War I. You can't have it both ways.
So why didn't Hitler want them there?
But they were citizens.
Why
Some
did
of
he
them had
not
been
want
there
them there?
hundreds of years.
Why did he
Their
not want
family.
them there?
This is what anti-Semitism is about, Dom. Again, your whole premise was that they were foreign. Is that the case, or is that not the case?
No, I paralleled the United States. We don't want these foreign invaders.
Because they are not citizens. They are invaders. Here you have citizens who fought in World War I, who are German citizens. The only differential factor is that they were Jewish, which he did not consider a religion. He considered an ethnic identity.
So why did he not want Jews in his country?
Because you can go back to the protocols of the elders of Zion. You can go back to all Jewish conspiracies. You can go back to, the Catholic Church and its history of anti-Semitism. You can look at Islam and its history of anti-Semitism. You can look at it for any angle you want. He needed a scapegoat. You see it in the world. Whenever the world is not right, and this is a historical fact, the first group, and Jews are the harbinger of future things to come. When Jews are under attack, it typically means that there is something unsettling in the world. People are not happy about something. And because they're not happy about something, they need a scapegoat. Well, you have this population here that is both supposedly capitalist and hated for it and communist and hated for it. They're both ethnically different and hated for it, and they're both white supremacist and hated for it, and colonizer. The Jews can represent literally anything, and they have. Throughout all of history, anti-Semitism is never consistent. The cause is always in direct contradiction to what it was previously. And so you have a minority population in your country, and when Jews are successful, it's the most offensive thing of all. And you want to blame someone for instability in your country, you will always be able to go to the Jews. There will always be a conspiracy that leads you to the Jews. And we see it today, right now in society, where Jews are controlling the United States government. Israel's controlling everything. A country that's under attack constantly, that has a population of 8 million people. This is the country that's secretly controlling everyone. And yet it somehow can't even get a beneficial president elected for it who's not against it. So, we'll see with Trump. But Jews are the number one group attacked in the United States, but they're, by a large margin, 70% of religious hate crimes, but they control the world. This is just the consistent theme throughout all of history with Jews. So, and it would be a different group. If Jews got decimated and we didn't have them anymore, we would have a different group that was under attack. And that would become the new scapegoat. So that's all it is.
What is anti-Semitism? What is the definition?
The Jewish definition is hating Jews more than the average person does, or something like that. But it's obviously the hatred of Jews. And
do you believe in anti-Semitism laws? Because you keep hearing about people trying to pass anti-Semitic laws.
No, I'm not a fan of any. Again, I'm American. I'm a patriot. I don't believe in any law specifically for anti-Semitism.
If there was such a huge anti-Semitism, pure hatred for Jews, why did the Nazis just not round everyone up and deport them, get them to another country, dump them off somewhere else? Or why, the one thing I keep coming back to with the labor camps and I want to know about is, why encamp them and just not put them in and just immediately exterminate them?
Well, because you can't. Again, there are world eyes on Germany at the time. There was a slow progression to genocide. And by the way, when you say I learned that Hitler was a monster, that's not the way I learned about Hitler. I learned that what made Hitler most dangerous was how charismatic he was. That's what I learned. So I don't know what history you learned. I learned that he was incredibly nationalistic. He had a premise that was very appealing to Germany because it was in a bad space. Otherwise, he would have never gained power. So the premise that I don't know where you learned that Hitler was a monster through and through. He was not charismatic. He just started off with genocide. No, there's a progression to these things. I even talked about it with you with the cult thing. The guy did not start off with the intention of branding women and trafficking children. That's not his day one plan in the cult. That's where it ended up. If you look at most cults, they don't start off with the intention of mass suicide. It progresses through this weird, intoxication of power into this disturbing end thing. You don't always know how you get there. That's not always your starting plan. Breaking Bad kind of captures it perfectly. Who he is in the beginning is not who he is at the end. So to say that Hitler's goal from day one was always the extermination of Jews, I don't know. But he definitely ended up there. There's enough evidence to support
then that's fair for me to wind up researching and have an opinion right now. Because if I look, I'm in the process of researching. That's why you're on and you're also talking. It's why I listen to you. It's why I listen to everybody else, because I want to make my own mind up. If he had that speech, and it was an excerpt. It was 7 minutes of a speech. God knows how long it was. And during it, my youth was, 70s and 80s. And we knew that Hitler was nothing more than the Antichrist. That's what he was. Whenever you heard, because I did come from the generation where we did run into people who had barcode tattoos on their, or numbers tattoos on their arms. And we would just be, you never said a word, you listened. Hitler was a monster. Hitler murdered. Hitler experimented on people, the torture they did to come up with the final solution. That's all we knew about him. My one question in the comments of stuff that I've done is if the Catholic nuns taught us this like crazy, why, when I was in 1st through 8th grade, didn't they get translated speeches of his to back up their claims that he was the Antichrist? I heard a patriotic political speech that was talking about his country being oppressed by outsiders, not Jews at this point, but the other countries, whatever other countries he was talking about. I ran into another article that had Churchill's writings, where Churchill was actually trying to start war with Hitler, and that's not what we were told. Then you get George S. Patton, General Patton, who's talking about we fought the wrong enemy in World War II. So when it comes to
show
this,
me where that's actually written by General Patton and not hearsay from one of his people who was around him, and then
his
also
own letters.
He's
got his own letters to his wife.
He does not say in the letters to his right, transcribed by himself, that we fought the wrong enemy.
What does he say?
Doesn't. I don't know, but show me in the letters to his wife where he writes that. General Patton, by the way, spent a tremendous amount of time with the Germans themselves, the people. And by the way, my impression of German people is that they're wonderful people. There was a problem in Nazi Germany that led to a psychotic behavior in the population, mass psychosis. Outside of that, German people, even till today, are wonderful people. There's studies on this. Again, it's not like, and if you want to look at General Patton, you want to ignore what Eisenhower said firsthand. He said that people will come and deny this, which is why it's so important to speak about it. I mean, there's selective things you can do. You can, and this is obviously the root of every conspiracy. You find one thing that a person wrote, because General Patton feared communism so greatly. And he might have been right in that, by the way, because communism today is a major threat to the world. Do I think the world would be better off if Nazi Germany had won? No, I think that would have been the bigger threat. But they're both massive threats to the world. Stalin has killed how many people? You look at communism's history of killing people, we're looking at over 100 million people.
I want to ask a question on that one. Stalin is quoted to kill up to about 20 million people. Why is it? So here's a conspiracy, right? Why, when I type in what was the greatest genocide in history, it always goes to the Holocaust, and it doesn't go to, well, that was 6 million people versus Stalin's 20. Why is that overshadowed?
Because it's not a genocide. If you look at what wars resulted in the biggest deaths, Stalin will come up. Or what dictators have caused the most death, Stalin will come up. It wasn't genocide. It wasn't based on your ethnic identity or religious identity. They're fundamentally different. He didn't round up people and put them into camps to gas them entirely based on the fact that they're Jewish or Italian or black or whatever thing that may be. So again, fundamentally comparing the two is different. Is Stalin a monster? Stalin is a monster. Did he kill 20 million people? Is he responsible for the death of 20 million people? Sure. Mao has killed tons of people too. There's fundamental differences in the intention behind it. I don't know if one is necessarily worse than the other. I think they're both disgusting, but the language we use is relevant. The term genocide was coined because of the Holocaust, because of what its intention was.
What's the biggest
It's not a conspiracy, by the way. I'm answering your question as it's not a conspiracy to ask, why is this a genocide and this not? It's a very easy thing to answer.
Well, what is the biggest thing that ruffles your feathers? Is it the fact that I haven't researched everything and then I'm putting out opinions in the process?
No, it's because I know people's intention, right? Like, again, I asked you early on, you never answered. Why aren't you questioning slavery? You started saying, well,
I have questioned slavery.
That if it happened, you question whether slavery really happened.
I don't question what happened to the Jews really happened though either.
So you believe 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust?
At this point, no, I don't.
There you go. So you don't believe.
So, no, these are you're asking for if I don't question that slavery didn't happen, but I start to question, do slavery happens in the numbers of what they said, right? Because again, we were told again growing up, the entire South owned slaves. Then when you find out, you do research that really wasn't the entire South. It was actually a small percentage of wealthy people who owned slaves. And the North never owned slaves. But then you heard some people actually did. So if that's the case, slavery existed, but to the depths of what they told us wasn't accurate. How would you say to people who are doing research on Holocaust now, where people, the number is 6 million, but now all of a sudden, I'll give you an example. I think it was a couple of months ago, 2 articles came out by liberal media. I don't know if it was MSNBC or whatever it is. But first there was 120,000 surviving members of the Holocaust alive today. Fast forward a couple months, that same publication puts out, there's 270,000 surviving members alive today. So when we start to see conflicting numbers...
This is just MSNBC random, and I haven't seen these articles. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, this is where we go down the loophole of, it's very easy to confirm. Germany did its own internal investigation after the fact. Again, is Germany still controlled by the Jews? They did their own investigation. They found the numbers probably higher than 6 million. They don't know the exact number. Do people know is it 6,500,421.5? I don't know what the exact number is. It's roughly 6 million. We know this because of census documentation of the time. We know this because those Jews disappeared. We know this because, again, people can actually track their family lineages and record this amount of my family was wiped out. And Germany documented everything in great detail. So you're asking questions. This is the problem. If I ignore all evidence, I just haven't looked at it yet. I'm not looking at any of the mainstream evidence because I just don't trust anything mainstream anymore. So all of the Nuremberg trials, all the 97 volumes and you can go look, archival footage, the closest documented footage from the time. The footage in the Nuremberg trials is both literally what was recorded by Germans in Nazi Germany, what the Americans found after, and then the trials themselves of Germans admitting to everything, okay? Which I don't know why they would do. I guess, again, the Jews have that much power, but apparently that's it. All for the spread of communism, like Europa, the last battle likes to claim. Or you're going to ignore all that and then look and say, oh, well, they had pools. And therefore, I'm going to ignore hundreds and hundreds of hours of documented footage. And I'm going to say, but they had pools. But I saw an MSNBC article in 2024 that said there's more survivors than I would have thought. They got their numbers wrong. MSNBC can't report anything properly. MSNBC is a propaganda channel. I don't care if they're talking about the Holocaust. I don't care if they're talking about Trump. I don't care if they're talking about Israel, Palestine. They're a propaganda channel. I wouldn't go to them as a reputable source of anything. I would literally just look at there's so much footage, man. It's incredible to see that people will watch one documentary and then dismiss an entire body, or go there yourself and ask the questions and come to me with every single question. I want every single question you have. It's going to be in my documentary.
So you want to know there's my questions. I did grow up watching documentaries that were always that you don't question the Holocaust. It happened the way it is. The last several weeks, here comes other information. So should I just discredit every article that comes out and says, well, we're questioning this. Should I just dismiss it and say, no, it's not true? And it should be.
No, you shouldn't. But you yourself told me you didn't research the Nuremberg trials. You yourself told me you didn't read Mein Kampf. You yourself told me you didn't watch all that footage of things like Shoah and all those. There's literally an hour-long segment from the Nuremberg trials called concentration camps. And it is solely footage recorded by the Germans and solely documentation of their entire process. In fact, the biggest argument that Holocaust deniers usually make is not that it didn't happen, by the way. If you go back to like the Lipstadt case in 2000, you should research that case. It's a UK case of defamation from a woman against a woman who spoke out against a guy who was a Holocaust denier. And he said, she's defaming me. And he did a whole trial and she had to reprove all the things that he wrote in his book were bunk. The spectrometers not showing the proper amount of toxic chemicals. There was no ventilation in the concentration camps, and there was in the chambers. All these common claims that he wrote about, and he showed pictures and all this stuff, had to be debunked in 2000 in court. It's very easy to go look up the trial. The trial was very public. You can go do all these things, but what you're doing is you're saying, I found this one thing that my friend told me, and then I looked at an NBC article that said there's more survivors than I thought there would be. They can't get it right. Well, so now I'm questioning whether 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust, and I heard one speech. But I haven't done all this other body of work. I
asked you several minutes ago, should I just keep my mouth shut and wait until I've done?
So what I would say is, there's a way to do it then that I have to question what your intentions are. You
My
simultaneously
question-
start questioning the Holocaust.
You,
simultaneously start questioning the Holocaust, then say Jews are the religion of Satan. You have people platformed on your show all the time now who you consider good friends who are blatant Holocaust deniers and anti-Semites. So yes, there's a trend here if we're being honest and genuine. Can I ask you this? Do you believe Jews control the world?
Do I believe that Jews control the world? Control as far as what? As far as every single country in the world, every nation?
No. Do you believe they control the United States?
Do I believe they control the United States? I don't have a correct answer for that one. Have I seen stuff like every single, almost every single, it seems like every organizing member of FEMA seems to have a Jewish last name that I've seen the last couple of days? Oh, I couldn't tell you on that one. I get the passion behind the argument, but when it comes down to it, here's the deal too. Domestic battery laws changed in the 80s. They changed in the 80s because what was happening is guys would get drunk, beat their wives, and they'd be taken to prison and then or jail, and then they'd be let out as soon as they sober up, and they go right back home. And a lot of times they'd kill their wives for calling 911. So in the 80s, there was a 3-day holding period, or a day holding period, a domestic battery, which was it's a class A misdemeanor in many states. It's not a felony. Instead of being released, the guys had to go before the judge now, and the judge would set bond and say, you can't go home for 72 hours. You got to stay away from your wife, all this stuff. It was a massive cooling down period. Can we say, based on those laws, that domestic battery had an overwhelming impact on women for the change to be made?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Do you think that for if domestic batteries laws, which were affecting women for the most part, if all these women were affected enough to change laws, do you think that women are the primary victims in domestic battery laws?
I think that if there was a law that was not in place that was causing more women to be abused, and there was an ethical way to change it to reduce abuse against women, then the answer is yes.
The point being is you have a group of women, let's just say millions of women across the nation, were crying foul because men were taking advantage of them. So the government, state governments changed laws to defend women like crazy. And you fast forward, now you have women who are so well versed in laws, they abuse it. But we're in a society where you got to believe all women. As a cop, my job was to go respond to 911, and you go to a call and you got a household. He's screaming, she's screaming, and I had to figure out what happened. Should I, based on the history of what I know about women being abused in domestic battery laws, women being violently beaten, killed, all that, should I automatically side with the female every single time, or should I stop and say, I need to get all the information?
You should do due process. Okay. You should have due process.
Same
which
thing.
You haven't done for the Holocaust.
Again, same thing. I'm in the first
No, you
stages.
haven't done it. You're only looking
I'm in the stages. Cool your jets for a second because you're not listening.
Okay.
I'm in the stages of discovering something. I lived through 9/11. 9/11, where we all stood up patriotically and we blamed everybody who wore a fucking towel on their head for destroying the lives of 3,000 people and destroying New York City. And then you fast forward. Well, wait a second. Why were all these people evacuated from the building the day before? Why did Rumsfeld show up and we're missing $2 trillion from the Federal Reserve the day before? All of a sudden, we have big 9/11 deniers. You've got the bombing of Timothy McVeighville.
Can we stick with one?
I'm proving a point that when you get information, why should I? Tell me why I should blindly swallow that 6 million Jews were annihilated at death.
I haven't told you to blindly swallow it.
You're resisting every question I have that comes up.
I haven't resisted one single question. What I've told you is it seems like you're only looking for information that confirms your bias. You're saying, well, when I grew up, I saw these documentaries. Give me the names of the documentaries you saw. You haven't read Mein Kampf. You haven't researched the Nuremberg trials. You haven't watched any legitimate documentary on the Holocaust. You haven't watched any testimony that is actually relevant from survivors. You haven't watched the video evidence of the Germans themselves. You've gotten information from friends who are blatant anti-Semites. You're now referring to Jews as the religion of Satan. You're now denying that 6 million Jews did not die in the Holocaust. This is a problem. And you're trying to hide behind the fact of, I'm just asking questions. Well, I'm giving you the answer. No, I'm not hiding behind anything. I'm not hiding behind anything. I'm giving you the answer to your question. What is it? There is thousands of hours of footage for you to go research on your own. This is your obligation. Which I'm in the process of, which I'm doing. I didn't told you I had no interest in this whatsoever. I'm tired
of being involved in wars 6,000 miles away. I do not care if Palestine. I do not care.
Miles away.
Every single, because every single day, if you criticize Israel, you'll get your comment section swarmed about how you're anti-Semitic when you just don't give a shit.
Israel is the most criticized country in the world. It was criticized.
Why?
Why
are they criticized?
Beyond Iran, North Korea, and China.
Why are they criticized?
Most criticized country in the world. If you go on Twitter, the #1 trending country with negative feedback is Israel. If you looked at one of the most trending slogans last year, it was "Hitler was right." Jews are clearly in such great control of the world that you can't criticize Israel. Yet, literally, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, all these people have made a career of criticizing Israel. She's not out there in jail. She hasn't been killed like she claims she's going to be. The entire left-wing media criticizes Israel daily, even when they're attacked. They're the most disproportionately criticized country in the world, despite doing humanity a favor by taking out groups like Hezbollah and limiting Iran.
Why are they the most criticized?
It's a statistical fact.
No. I said why. What makes them? Because is it just
they're
out
in
of
the
nowhere?
Middle East as a Jewish country, and again, anti-Semitism is rampant in the world. They're in the Middle East as a Jewish country, surrounded by Islamic countries, and they are disproportionately targeted by those countries. There is a very strong bond between the United States and Israel. Israel is seen as the little capitalist country. And if you look by world standards, there's a lot of hatred. People get this backwards. They think the hatred for the United States is from Israel. Nope. The hatred for Israel is because it's a little capitalist Western civilization in the Middle East. It is perceived as a colonizer. And it is the same hatred for Israel.
Define that.
Literally
what do you mean they're perceived as a colonizer? What does that mean?
They're perceived as in 1948, they came in and they took the land. That's the perception by people who hate it. And therefore, which by the way is the formation of every country in the world. It's like America slaughtering the natives. The entire Middle East was pretty much segregated out by the Brits. Jordan is a fake country by that standard. Ironically, Israel is the only country, well, not the only, but one of the few countries that was actually legally created and not on the death of the native population. But that's a whole other argument if you want to get into Israel. I mean, we can have a whole other show on Israel, and you can ask me every question you want.
So there's a question too, because I want to get in that. Is there a clear distinction between Israel and Jews?
In what sense?
Is being Jewish? Is that a religion or is that an ethnicity?
It depends on who you talk to. Jews have an ethnic identity, and Hitler, according to Hitler, Jews were an ethnicity.
Hitler made a statement. Hitler made a statement, and it kind of goes inside to what I was talking about with it being the religion of Satan, where he had said, and I'm paraphrasing, that Jews believe that they're the only ones that were like God's chosen. What is, because when we first started,
so you've known me for a while. Have you ever heard me say again, I'm chosen?
No,
I'm
gonna ask you, when it comes down, because we talked about this October of last year with people that were claiming that the Talmud says that Christ is boiling in semen and feces and whatnot. What is the
Talmud doesn't say that. I addressed it.
I know. That's why I'm getting that point. Can you kind of surmise what the Jewish faith is and what it's all about?
Well, number one, okay, I mean, if Judaism is the religion of Satan, then the Christian Son of God and God himself are the religion of Satan. Jesus chose to come to earth as a Jew. That was his choice. Could have come as
there it goes. Did he come as a Jew for religion, or did he come as a Jew for ethnicity?
I mean, he obviously believed in Judaism, and he obviously was born.
But you just said that it depends on who you talk to.
Yeah, I don't like. The truth is that I think Jews are both in some degree in ethnicity. People can obviously convert into the religion, but people have targeted us for our ethnic. This is the great irony of Judaism. Again, some people hate us for being white colonizers, and some people hate us for being Jewish, non-white, whatever it may be, ethnic Jews. That's the great anomaly of Judaism. You can be hated for opposite spectrum of the same thing at the same time. Capitalism, communism, we're hated for both. So, I mean, again, you're asking me what I believe about Judaism. Do I believe Jews are an ethnic identity? Are you asking me personally?
Which is it? Does every Jew practice Judaism?
No.
So then, by definition, is being Jewish an ethnicity first and then a religion?
Are you asking me my opinion? I think Judaism is both an ethnicity and a religion, depending on the context. If you look, there's people who are not ethnically Jewish who converted in, and they're Jewish, and they're actually considered just as Jewish, if not more Jewish than Jews who were born Jewish.
Can you sum up on the faith of Judaism? My exposure to it is, it seems that's Old Testament versus New Testament, and it seems that there were very laws, like I count hundreds of laws that Jews had to follow. Is that correct? God's laws.
Okay, so again, if you're looking at on paper the way Jews are supposed to live their life, the most religious Jews, of course, there's all types of rules and regulations that God sets forth. They're not hadiths. They're not the same thing as in Islam. There's not a geopolitical ideology behind it. That doesn't exist in Judaism. The separation of church and state for some reason existed Judaism and state existed for a long time in most countries. Israel still has a separation of Judaism and state. I know people don't like to believe that, but there's equal rights for all citizens within Israel who are Israeli citizens. So yeah, I mean, the idea that we believe we're the chosen people is the same thing as, I guess, Christians believing that the only way to God is through Christ.
That was my question. That ultimately led up to my point. The reason I said it's satanic, I'm not talking devil horns and going around putting curses on people, sacrificing children and all that. I'm talking about, if you look at the difference between the Old Testament and the New Testament, you had God's original covenant in the Old Testament. And for those who are Christian, they believe that the new covenant was God saying, okay, you guys are so falling short of my standard for you. You can't follow my laws. I'm going to send my son. He's going to pay the ultimate price. You cannot do any works that will get you into heaven. It's not possible. The only way to get to heaven is through accepting Christ as your Savior, and that's how you get to me. It seems, and this is where I'm asking because I'm not educated in Judaism, that they don't believe in that. They believe that Christ was a prophet. They believe that, maybe I'm paraphrasing, you can clarify me. Do they believe that their works will get them into heaven?
No, the concept of heaven in Judaism is a completely existential concept that doesn't exist. In fact, Jews don't believe that anyone goes to hell. So you'll find Jews who believe numerous different things. Jews is almost a philosophy more than a religion in that sense. There's no set answer. Many Jews I talk to believe that you have a soul. The soul becomes stained as you sin. Your goal in life is to be as close to God as possible. So God gave us these guidelines, and he said, if you want to be close to me or closer to me, these are some of the things you can follow. And these things, these rituals or whatever, these practices will let you lead a life that brings you closer to me. But whether you're Christian, which didn't exist at the time, whether you're Jewish, no Jew in the world looks at a Christian and goes, they're going to hell. Only Christians do that toward other religions. The Jews believe everyone will inevitably get closer to God. Now, I don't know how every Jew believes that will happen, but they believe that that is the journey of mankind, to get closer to God. And whether some Jews might believe in reincarnation, some Jews believe that the soul becomes stained and that as you die, there's different layers and the soul has to cleanse itself. In fact, that's why we fast once a year, is to ask for forgiveness. But the notion that God chose the Jews, by the way, is also a misconception. Jews don't believe that. We don't believe we were the first people. We believe God had asked numerous other groups of people to follow him before us. We believe we're the first that chose to follow him. Christianity is a continuation of that for Jews. Do they believe Christ is the Son of God? No, but many Jews actually do believe that Christ's teachings are very close to the teachings that are in the Old Testament, to the same tenets that Jews follow. Now, I know a lot of Christians hate Jews because they believe that, obviously, if you look at Roman times, that Jews turned in Christ. I know the verses that say that Jesus referred to Jews as the children of the devil. Again, even the church has addressed this. There's so much context to this. Was he referring to Jews as a whole? Well, that would be pretty difficult, considering he himself was a Jew. He was referring to the Pharisees and the people of the time who were in power, who had come down on him. And again, in the context of the religion, it would be completely contradictory for him to say that and also say to bless the Jews. So there would be contradictory comments from the Son of God, which wouldn't make sense.
And that's where I go back to where, like I said, it was a pride issue. Like if I build in my house and I do all the work myself. I'm very proud in it. I did all that, but if the house was gifted to me, I didn't do it. And that was my association with the Satan, because Satan's sin was pride. And that's what it seems like that the Jewish faith, like Islam, they're doing that on it. I want to pivot for a second. What's it going?
Wait, but let me ask you this. Where do you see pride in Judaism? I'm actually curious.
The works that they have to do, or whatever, I don't know what they're called, the Jewish laws that get them closer to God. That's how their steps are closer to God. Ours is accepting Christ's sacrifice.
Okay, but first of all, Jews don't do it out of pride. There's zero pride behind it. In fact, there's a surrender, very much Christ-like surrender in Judaism, that we do not have the power, that we do not know the way to God, that God knows the way to God. And through him, through his teachings, we can be closer to him. It's identical. It has nothing to do with pride. In fact, pride is a major, major sin in Judaism. When we're taught, when we give charity, we should not post it. We should not talk about it. It should be solely the truest, highest form of charity is to give with no one knowing. There's no pride behind it. In fact, the point of all these things are to release ourselves from pride, from knowing that we have the power to do things, because we should not see ourselves that way. We should see ourselves as being led by God. So it's so weird to hear that you think it's the religion of Satan when the tenets are almost identical to Christianity, and Jesus himself chose to come as a Jew, die as a Jew for our sins. And then on top of it, if he is the Son of God, if he is God, and he came knowing this was his purpose, which you said that's why Jesus came. Wouldn't he have known? Wouldn't he have needed Judas to rat on him? Wouldn't he have, as God, an all-powerful being, been thankful for this to happen so that he could fulfill
which he was.
According to the book of Enoch, which no one talks about, there's a lot that shows that Judas actually made a massive sacrifice for Jesus, that he chose to go against what he wanted, which was to protect Jesus, knowing that Jesus himself knew he needed to die for our sins. So, I mean, again, you could find anything and anything, but I don't know. When people start going down, Jews are the religion of Satan, I don't believe 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust. It might be hard for you to understand this.
Well, it is hard for understanding. That's why we're having these discussions. Explain to me all the videos that I get sent about rabbis and their, because the rabbis I see remind me of the Westboro Baptist Church. I can't stand Christians. Okay. There's a lot of them who fucking suck. A lot of them who are 100%, if you don't do this, you're going to hell. I do not like the way that most Christians evangelize. Talk to me about all the people going around saying that Jews consider us goyim, cattle. We're going to end up their servants. Why is that such a big movement that people are trying to just nonstop expose and talk about now?
Well, again, because they're isolating a small sect of extremist Jews, and they're trying to create a framework around that, which you can do with any group of people. If you have 1% of Jews who believe something insane, and then you just get videos of the 1%, and you say this is what the other 99% believe. And I don't know, in my whole life, I never heard that kind of thing. Is there a certain degree of Jews out there who isolate or, are extremists in their religion? Of course, just like you just said, the Westboro Baptist Church. To pretend that doesn't exist in Judaism would be insane. It doesn't mean that they're not condemned by the vast majority of Jews, which is why Israel is and sadly this might be a bad thing, is an overly secular state in that sense. But it's the only place in the Middle East which the Christian population has grown. Christian population has been decimated in the rest of the Middle East. Is that by coincidence, or is that because Israel protects its Christian population? 80-something% of Christians polled in Israel held very favorable views. By the way, a huge percentage of Muslims polled in Israel held very favorable views for the government. And when polled if they wanted to live under an Islamic regime, it was overwhelmingly no. And these are things that are easy to research. But yeah, the notion that Jews don't love Christians, I'm sure there's some out there who don't. There's some Jews, by the way, out there who don't care about Christians. They hate Jews. They hate other Jews who do not follow the religion as closely as they do. They'll throw rocks at you. So again, there's extremism in any group or population of people. That's just what it is. But again, you're using an isolated group of people to create a framework of a much larger.
So how do people discern when they see people who represent Jewish culture or Jewish faith, Jewish religion, and their title is rabbi, and they're proclaiming some very intense stuff? I'm going to be their slave. I'm a goyim, all this. How do people?
I won't say you're going to be their slave. That I'd be surprised. But I mean, for sure, actually, there's probably crazy shit that people say. But okay, whatever. Yeah.
So how do people discern?
How many videos have you seen?
Quite a few.
Well, how many were we talking? Give me a number.
50, at least in the last couple of weeks.
Okay, so let's say there's 5,000, right? Let's say there's 5,000 out there. You've seen 50. Let's make it higher. Let's say there's 20,000. How many Jews are there in the world? I mean, and again, you're looking at comparing millions of people to 50 in this case, but I'm gonna amplify that number by 1,000. You know what I mean? It's still not a relevant percentage of the population. And these videos get circulated because people want to create a narrative around Jews. Just like if I were to show you every day videos of the Westboro Baptist Church, you know what the best way to determine this is? Through simple action. In other words, in the Islamic population, how many honor killings do we see? Do we see Sharia law implemented in countries? Do we see beheadings? Do we see extremism? And then what percentage of the population through polling agrees with that behavior? Because that's the second layer that's very relevant. And so you can actually look at actions being taken, and then you can look at the population that agrees with that extremist action. You can look at the Westboro Baptist Church. See, there is no comparison to that in Judaism or Christianity. If you compare it to Islam, we don't have that kind of extremism where people put nails on their body and blow themselves up to kill another Sunni or Shia. And so, but let's take the most extreme case of Christianity. The most extreme case in the secular world would be the Westboro Baptist Church. Now, if you extrapolate from that, how many people agree with the Westboro Baptist Church? Not many. The same kind of philosophy applies to Judaism. You don't see Jews strapping bombs on their chest. You don't see them taking secret slaves. I don't know anywhere in the world where Jews have secret slaves. Unless you buy into conspiracies, I guess, that your friends have, that the Jews do control everything and they secretly must be globalist controlling the world. I don't know.
I got to call you out on that one. You keep bringing them up, but you won't go on and debate them. Why?
Oh, I invited them. Well, first of all, I won't platform. Yeah, I don't care to give them views, but I invited them into my documentary. I'm going to do my documentary with them. I'll just do it in a way that it's not promoting their podcast. I mean, that's all.
No, I understand. I'm asking questions for this whole thing, and that's my point on all of this. And my journey is going to be my journey. And I went just as hard at the Catholic. I was Catholic forever. I left the Catholic Church. I think the Catholic Church is the biggest pedophile organization in the world. Well, how do you determine that? Because we have countless numbers of priests who can't keep their hands off fucking children. And the Catholic Church is all about rules and follow this. And the Catholic Church puts themselves as the standard above the Bible. That makes them satanic. So
okay,
when
but I don't follow how this connects. The biggest
point,
problem
but here's how it connects
is that we're secular.
Here's how it connects is I'm questioning. That's all I'm doing. I'm questioning what Hitler was saying. I'm questioning why are people coming out and saying, well, they changed the numbers of how many people were killed. Why am I not allowed to question? Because all of a sudden it's you're anti-Semitic if you question. Well, fuck that. I'm going to question 10 times harder then. See, that's okay, my whole thing. My whole thing is that I don't pick a side on anything. I'm apolitical. I think both sides suck, all this shit. But when one side is going to make me forced to care about them more than the other, now I got a fucking problem. And now I want to find out why.
But nobody asks you to care. This is the great irony. Jews are not saying care about us. We're saying stop obsessing. Like, again, not to bring up your friends, their podcast is almost dedicated to Jews. Candace Owens spends her entire day talking about Jews. Jake Shields spends his entire day talking about Jews. It seems like the people who are just asking questions are highly obsessed with Jews.
And there's an ultimate question.
Hey, give it a rest, bro. Like, maybe don't talk about it 24 hours
well,
a day.
Here's a question, and this is something I brought the other day, is there with the black community in this nonstop talk about oppression and slavery. It ended 400 years ago, right? But they still talk about it to leverage it. So my question is with the Jews is, okay, if all these people now are complaining like you like crazy, is there a contribution that culture did to get people so obsessed about them? Because if you're just going to stand back and say, no, Jews haven't done anything, I don't buy that. I don't buy it.
Again, Jews are hated for both being capitalists. They're hated for being communists. Jews are hated for being white. They're hated for being non-white. Jews are hated for being nationalists. They're hated for being globalists. I mean, so for you to come to me and say, well, I don't buy it, there's no reason. Again, people need a scapegoat. And if there weren't Jews in the world, there'd be someone else to hate.
But again, remember, I didn't say I didn't buy it. I didn't deny anything. I'm in the process of discovering.
I didn't say
all this
you.
stuff.
I said that you just said I don't buy that the reason that Jews haven't done anything and therefore people are obsessed with them for no reason. Jews are a scapegoat for things that are not right in the world. another group would take the place of the Jews, given the opportunity, if there were no more Jews left. Not given the opportunity, given the sad reality. So you'll notice that anti-Semitism is quite low in countries when things are great in the country.
It is. We got to continue this. We got 30 seconds till it cuts off. This is we'll come back on. I will form a list of questions and stuff that I'm doubting, and then I'll just ask you flat out. Oh, guys, Spreely.com. Go check everything out. Tomorrow, I have no idea what's going on for tomorrow and the rest of the week. Other than that, go out and help somebody today. And if you can't help them, do not hurt them. Have a great damn day. See you guys tomorrow.